Hi, my name's Angela McCall, and in this very first episode of WordPress Wednesdays, we are going to be configuring WordPress.org out-of-the-box solution for a self-hosted website. So basically what that means is learning to download, unzip, unpackage, upload into our hosting, configure to our database, connect in our domain name, and basically run with a new website installation. And that's what we're covering in today's video. Okay, so we're going to jump straight into today's video because I think this very first one is going to be quite a long task because there's quite a lot to explain, and if you are going to be setting up your website, this is probably something you're going to just have to do once, unless you suddenly decide you want to set up multiple websites, at which point you'll have to do it for each and every site. But there are also the chances that you guys might have a hosting company that's really large and have some sort of wizard that will do this whole task for you. So we're going to jump on now to the hosting company that I use, which is a company that used to be called 1&1 Internet. They're now Ionos, if I've said that right. I've been using these guys now for the last maybe 3 years. I have used lots and lots of different hosting companies, so what I'm going to show you is going to work for their environment. But as I go through it, I am going to explain some of the things to watch out for because of my experience of using lots of different hosting companies. They all do things in their own way, and I'm going to point out little sort of, not tricks of the trade, but little things that you might need to watch out for if you're using a different hosting company and you're struggling, or there's a problem and you don't know what to do. Hopefully I will catch that problem for you en route through this task so that you can go and at least ask the right questions to your own hosting company in order to solve the problem. So the first thing that we need to do is, before I can actually start playing with the domain name, I need to set up my hosting. Now the hosting is the place that my website will live, and if we, for 1&1 and the way that, Ionos as they are now, the way that they organise their systems, as it were, or their servers, is that we actually set up the hosting and then we have to attach the domain name to the hosting. So I'm going to create a web space right now. So I am literally just going to create a folder. So it's like creating a folder on your normal computer. What I generally try and do is I call them public, and then underscore, and then the name of the site or something like that. Now the reason that I give them like a public name or something like that first is because I build websites for lots of different reasons. I sometimes build membership sites, I sometimes build e-commerce shopping stores for one company if they want to use different domain names, or even if they want to create sites and use them as subdomains. And I don't want to confuse you, but essentially they can end up with 2 or 3 different working sites, all for part of their business. So I always kind of public website, store, or something like membership or something like that. So I have kind of keyword term. I've already logged into my hosting account. Now I'm just going to show you first of all domain names. Most hosting companies will work similarly. They might display things differently, but the concept is still the same. If you look down here at the moment, you can see there's one here with a red sort of padlock next to it. This is the domain I'm going to be using for this demo. It's actually going to be a real site. I'm going to be launching a book publication project, collaboration project, if I can pull it off, with lots of different solopreneurs across the UK, all of whom have lots of different expertise, and I want a website specifically for supporting this project. So this made a really good, useful tool for this demonstration because it's a real site, and you'll go check it out. Once I have the hosting set up, what I can do now is I can go back to my domain name, and I'm basically going to tell my domain name to be added to that hosting. So now the two are working together as one item. So down here they've got use your domain name. They make it really easy for us. Your hosting company will have a similar thing. They've got lots of different things I can do with it. I'm going to show you one of these others in a minute, but connect to web space. It's pretty self-explanatory. You click on the folder, you click save. Now it might take a couple of minutes to connect through. It's telling me straight away here that it has, and it's got an orange here saying it's connecting. Now I'll come back and refresh my page in a minute, but whilst I'm waiting for that to happen, let me just go back to my domain names. What I the reason I wanted to do that is because this one here, mccallmedia.tv, is actually attached or forwarded to my YouTube channel. So I've actually got a nice friendly URL for my YouTube channel instead of using the long serial number for when I first launched the channel. And because I use YouTube so much in my business, I thought it was worthy of having a domain name actually mask the channel and redirect people. So that's a little tactic I've used. Okay, so whilst I'm waiting for my hosting company to catch up with me by connecting the domain name and the hosting together, I thought I'd go and get the latest copy of WordPress. So I'm on the WordPress.org site. Do watch my other video where I explain the difference between .com and .org. So we're doing the self-hosted version here. It's really quite simple. You click on the Get WordPress and then you download. Oh, they've got a little pop-up. There we go. And then up here, I'm using Firefox because I like their debugging tools. So when I design websites, I find their debugging tools a lot more friendlier than other browsers. Right, so I'm just waiting for the download to finish of WordPress. Obviously, it's quite a large file. Okay, so it's just finished downloading, and if you go to my downloads folder, you can see there the file is. Now I'm just going to right click on it and I'm going to extract all, because we need to upload the unzipped version of the folder, and also that will take a wee bit of time. So let me just put this somewhere on, let's say, the desktop, so that I can find it nice and easily. So whilst that's unpackaging itself, what I'm also going to talk to you about is another tool that you use or need, which is I use FileZilla, which is again a very, very handy, easy tool to grab off of the internet. So I'm just going to open that right now for you and show you, but just in case you need to go and get a copy of it, if you literally type in FileZilla. Now you've got to bear in mind, if you're on a Mac or a PC, just make sure that you're getting the correct version that you're downloading. You don't want the server, you actually want the client version, and it's just click the green button and install like any other software. Now what FileZilla does, it gives you a really nice environment to be able to move all of those files that we're unzipping at the moment for WordPress from my local computer up onto my hosting space. So before we can do that, we actually need to go and get all the settings for the hosting from Ionos, so that I can configure FileZilla, and then I'll be able to get the two computers to talk to each other while I move them from the files from A to B. Now there is one thing that you do need to bear in mind here, is that most hosting companies will provide you with their own version or tool for using. It's basically an FTP tool, which is called File Transfer Protocol, and it basically is a tool that exists to move files from A to B across the internet. Now if you want to use your hosting companies and not use FileZilla, that's fine. At the end of the day, a car can be in lots of different shapes and sizes. FTP tools can be in lots of different shapes and sizes. You just need to basically understand that it's a tool that is basically there to move files from A to B. So you use whatever method that you works for you, but essentially you are going to need to use something along these lines. So just to show you then, on my desktop, obviously I've got loads of rubbish, and there's my WordPress folder, and just to show you what's in that WordPress folder, we've got 3 other folders and then various PHP files. This is the content. This is basically what you're seeing here is what we are going to have to move from A to B. So you need to make sure that you're not selecting the folder, the top level folder as it were, you're actually getting the content and moving. So essentially, let me just select it. Everything that is selected on screen will be what is going to be copied up onto the server in our hosting space. Now I'm just going to close this screen right now so that I don't confuse you. Okay, so what we're going to do now is go and get the FTP details, and we're just going to tidy up and lock the hosting and the domain name so that it's all nice and tidy. And you want to do these admin type tasks before you start moving files or before you start configuring everything, because you give yourself a lot more of an easier journey than if you do it later on, because the SSL certificate, for example, will basically protect the content of your site and your folder on your server. And if you apply this afterwards, it means every single image, every single folder, every single file that was uploaded prior to that will be living outside the SSL certificate. And then what you need to do is you need to go through, and there are hundreds, so you make sure that you need to protect your site. It also really helps you with things like Google Analytics, Google rankings, because Google is all about endorsing sites that are security protected as well these days, and you get extra ranking benefits for your SEO and that kind of thing. So I'm just going to turn that on first of all. So we're going to go back down to my domain name. I'm going to click on it, theartofsolopreneurship.com, which is the name of the book that we're going to be doing as a project. Down here you can see lots of various things about it. It tells me that everything is all connected, everything is fine. I haven't created any email addresses or anything like that for it yet, but there is an active SSL encryption. Sorry, there is not any active SSL encryption going on, so I'm going to apply that now. Now for me, I actually have a blanket license because obviously I've got lots of websites, so I have one license that covers an unlimited number of websites. If you are just doing the one only website, SSL certificates, now Ionos charge me £25 plus VAT, which is the tax in the UK. So it's just about £30-ish for a year, and obviously you have to pay for that on an annual basis. You do really need to think about getting an SSL certificate. So if you're watching this before you go organise your hosting, maybe just go and check on one of those things as well and see how much that's going to cost you, because those are kind of like the hidden extras that suddenly pop up out of nowhere. So I'm just, as you can see, I've got an unlimited one here. I'm just going to activate it, and it's real quick and easy once you've got these things already set up. All is good. All of my certificates have been added or up to date. Let's just go back up here and go back to my domain name. Now it might take a couple of minutes to refresh. Sometimes what I also find with Ionos is that I actually have to log out and log back in, and somehow that sort of revamps my account and shows me that things are all good. So I'm going to do that now. And okay, so I've logged out of my account and I've logged back in, and as you can see now I've got a nice green SSL security padlock showing that my hosting and my domain, in that sense, all of that kind of configuration where my site is going to live, is now all fully protected with my SSL certificate. Now the next thing I said to you that we need to do is we need to go and get the FTP details. Now this is where things will differ a little bit for absolutely everybody watching this video. First of all, I've got kind of like a blanket FTP for my entire agency hosting, so I can then see when I've logged on every single website that I've built on my server, whereby you guys will probably have to find these specific FTP details for your hosting. And if you, depending on the hosting company, what information you need might also change, and I'm going to talk you through that right now. What we have over here, it says connection data. They're basically giving me a server host name. It's telling me a port number, the username, because I've already got this set up, and as you can see over here there's the ability to create a user. So there's two things that are going on here. You need the general hosting FTP details, plus you need to be a user to be able to talk to your hosting. Again, hosting companies will work differently. One-on-one works with like a serial number and they assign it to you. Other hosting companies I've worked with in the past make you create a name. So again, think a little bit practically about how you are creating. Now this isn't a user for the website, it's a user for being able to FTP, file transfer protocol, your files off of your computer onto your hosting server. Okay, so I don't want to lose you, but just make sure you understand what the user is for. This is for file transfer protocols, as it were. If we click on the user just real quick, again, it basically, you'll need to create a password. Make sure you know your password, and if you use a security password thing somewhere like LastPass, which is a thing that I use, make sure you've logged it wherever it is, because if you lose this you can go back in and reset it, but it's a real headache configuring everything again. Okay, so it gives you the host URL, port numbers, the protocol is SFTP, which we'll need to plug in, the user's name, the password for the user, and so we've got all the information that we need. You want to drop it down, put it on Notepad, copy and paste it over, because you're going to need this in the next 5 minutes. I'm on FileZilla now, and basically I've already got my connection configured, but if you look up the top here, the quick way to do it is to type in that host URL, type in your username, type in your password, click on port and hit connect. And if you go up to the file here and then site manager, which I'm not going to do because obviously I've got lots of private settings, essentially what you've got there is the ability to save and store this information so that you don't have to plug it in every single time that you want to use FileZilla. And there is probably going to be a lot of instances where you might want to use it, because when I get onto my marketing videos and I teach you about digital sales funnels and lead magnets and delivering PDF guides or documents like ebooks and things like that, I actually use a different tactic to a lot of people, and there is lots of reasons for that, but one of the tools I need to use is FTP or FileZilla. So actually having this information saved and stored on your computer to help just make your life a lot easier is something that you're going to want to investigate. So you know where to get the data, you know how to plug it in, and you might just have to tweak and check with your hosting company if you've got any connection problems. But I'm going to show you now what should happen and explain what's going on this screen. I've got my hosting set up, so what's going up in this corner, and you can change all your screen sizes here, is my computer, my actual computer that I'm working on now in my little office, is talking to my hosting company, and as a result it's now populated this right hand side of the screen. And you can move things around, and if you don't want them on the right and the left the way that I have, you can switch them about. There's lots of different settings, but personally I think we read left to right. So in my mind, and a lot of people, it's generally the way it goes, is you start with the local computer on the left hand side of the screen and your hosting server on the right hand side of the screen, and then you kind of, no matter where you work or what you do, you're kind of working with the same sort of principle as everybody else, and you can't get yourself confused or in a mess later on. So what we've got here in this top screen is like my folder hierarchy, and then in the bottom left corner is the folder content, and the same goes over here. So these are my website folders, and then you've got the content inside the folders. Now I have just put that WordPress folder on my desktop, so I'm just going to literally navigate over to it so that we can see. Let me just move this up a little bit. All the content. So all I've done is gone to my desktop, to the WordPress folder, and basically navigated so I can see the content that we need to move populated in this bottom left corner. On the right hand side here, I've got lots of different websites, so you guys won't have this. You'll probably just go straight through to your main website hosting folder. So I'm just going to click on mine, and as you can see, it's an empty directory. There's absolutely nothing there, and I thought it might just be interesting to show you, because we've set it up. So the art of solopreneurship.com. Okay, so I am, as you can see up in the top left corner here, right now connected, although it's not picked up the SSL yet because there's no content, but essentially I'm on my website and it's not doing anything because there's nothing there, but I technically can see that everything's connecting. I haven't got like a error of any kind, or this website page cannot be found. So everything is technically working, it's just I've got nothing there to see. Okay, so we're going to go back to FileZilla. And I'm literally, now this is probably going to take, I've got really good internet connection for my house because obviously this is my business. This can take anywhere within like maybe 3-4 minutes to upload and process, to maybe 10-15 if you've got a slow internet connection. So all I am literally doing is I'm selecting every single file, not that top one, but every single content, and I'm literally going to drag it from the left screen to the right screen, and as I release my mouse, it's going to drop all these files. And what's going on down the bottom here, you can see a summary. 16 files, 3 directories, a total size, and that's how many bytes is going on. And you can see this is all flickering. This is every single file. As it goes green, it's moving from left to right, or from my local computer to my hosting company. Okay, so what you've got is the path where it's going from, direction to, which you can see it's going from left to right, which is why I also say you need to kind of think about how you've set up your FileZilla. There's the remote path, size of the file, priority. As it's transferring, it's telling me the status, so it'll tell me things like failed if it caused problems. I remember back in the day when we used to use dial-up routers, this would always be failed because the files would be too big, or this would happen, or you'd lose the connection. So things are a lot easier now. And then down in the bottom left hand corner, very, very small, I'll try and put it on screen so you can see, queued files is over 1,000 files still to go. Successful transfers at the moment moment we're in the 700s. So it basically is telling you exactly what's going on. This number's going down, this number is going up, and it will take a wee while. And then if anything does fail, it'll tell me the specific files there. So we basically now sit and wait for that to happen, because once that's done, we will have a WordPress will be living in our hosting, but then we have to configure it to connect it to a database and create an admin user and all that kind of stuff. So I'll come back in just a second. Okay, so my files have now all successfully moved from the left to my right hand side of the screen, which basically is my hosting. So this is my folder that we created on Ionos. Now, if you remember just a moment ago, I demoed the fact that we went there and there was nothing to see. And now what we get is the opportunity to set up our website. I'm going to go so far because we're going to have to dive back into Ionos and set up our database in a second. But whilst we're on this screen, it is helpful to select your language. Now, bear in mind that things like we use a bin, not a trash can in the UK, so there's only like kind of local terminology type differences like that really you have to worry about between all of these different English languages. I always go UK because I am British, that's what we do. Now, this is a little instruction here for you from WordPress as to what information you now need to go and collect, which is your database name. You then also have to have a user for your database, so you need to get your username, which is different yet again, a password, and the hosting location for where your database lives, because obviously your website exists. WordPress right now doesn't know what hosting company you're using, so you have to tell it. And sometimes table prefix, basically all of WordPress files and folders start with the prefix WP_, but you can change that if you want. However, if this is your very first website, I would suggest that you don't, because you will cause yourself some headaches later on and you won't know why, especially if you watch a YouTube tutorial, because most people don't change it. But I would suggest if this is your very first website, just keep things the way they are. So I'm going to click on Let's Go so you can see what we're going to do now. So basically we have to go and get the information to populate these boxes. So we go back to Ionos. Okay, so over here you can see I've got 11 of 500 in use on my hosting at the moment, because I've had a bit of a tidy up in order to do these videos. And right, so we are going to create a database. Again, this might be something you need to do and give it a couple of minutes before you can use it. So I know what the database is, that's fine. And password, obviously you're going to see that some of this is blanked out on your screen for security. Again, they'll give me a serial number for the database itself. You've got my description, so I know which database I'm working on for all of the ones that I manage. Hosting name for where the database actually lives. I mean, they've got host name here, but it's actually like a URL type path, so that WordPress on your hosting space knows which database to talk to and where it lives, so they can connect. Ports, you might need that. Username, which is your personal user for this database. Again, don't lose this information because it is different yet again to the FTP and yet again to the admin on your site. Okay, so we've plugged in the details and then you should get this screen. If you get any type of error, then somewhere your configuration, the data that you've put in there basically isn't right. So what you might need to do is just double check there's not a typo, a spelling, a missing full stop somewhere in a path. So once you've got to the screen, it says run the installations. Basically what's happened there is the database has connected successfully, and so the front end, which is the WordPress tools that we've just moved, or the files that we've just moved, is now talking to the back end. So this is the cosmetics, is what you get to see is in the files, and this is the data, like the memory and all the information that it needs to store in the database, and that's how the two things work. So it's a front end and a back end. So I'm going to give the website a name, which is, and you can change this later on, but you need to get through these screens. Username, now what you're creating here is your admin, ultimate godly logon for your website that you're going to use forever. So just be a little bit mindful because of security. Make sure you understand your password, and then you're obviously going to need an email address. Now at the very bottom of the screen, depending on how quickly you're going to get the site up and running and publicly visible, you've got the ability to discourage or leave as is the search engine visibility. So basically what that means is, as say for example Google sends out its little like program bots to go and read the internet to see if there's any new websites that have launched, it's going to come across yours, and this box is basically saying yes, go and register my site, or log it in your memory or your database so that you can deliver it to people, or don't for the moment because I'm still building it. Now for me, I'm going to leave it blank because obviously I'm going to build this site in a day and it's going to be a matter of hours, just a very basic simple site for these tutorials and just to get something up and running for me. But you guys, you might take a month to build your site, so I would suggest then turning it off, and if you watch my future videos in the admin, I will show you where to go and turn this on. And then when we're ready, we click to install WordPress. There we go, success. So it's basically saying you can do everything that you need to do now. Log in. I'm going to log in just to show that I can get to the admin and just to make sure that I can test everything. Right, so when you've got that all done, you log in your details, and then we're going to go through to the admin page. And there we go. We have logged into the back end of our website. And just so that you guys can see what it looks like at the front end, if we go back here, and there we go. And that is our out of the box configured WordPress installation ready to go. So now it's all about applying the cosmetics and the aesthetics to make it ours. So I hope that really helps explain how to set up your self-hosting. Right, great. So if you like this video and you found it really useful, I hope you have, please like and subscribe, because obviously every Wednesday I'm going to be giving you a different update to WordPress. And although for the first few months of April, May and June 2020 we are going to be talking about how to build a regular public website, like a brochure website, we will towards the end of 2020 start exploring things like e-commerce stores, possibly membership sites, because I have these needs for myself and my own business operations. So what better reason than to show you how to do it yourself, which can save you huge amounts of money for subscriptions, getting other companies that charge you forever on a monthly basis. You can avoid all of that by learning how to follow these videos. So subscribe, make sure you click the bell to stay notified. You'll get a little reminder in your YouTube channel and a little pop-up depending on what your settings are, and I will see you on the next video. Thank you very much for watching, and please put your comments if you've got any questions below. I'll do my best to answer all of them for you. Thank you.